Hey folks, today on DIY Buddy Guy, I'm going to show you how to install frost-free hose faucets. What makes them frost-free is that they are from here to the inside about 14 inches long. This edge here sets up against the side of the building. This length of pipe extends through the wall into the building where it typically is warmer inside than outside. Also, when you turn the knob, the valve that closes the water is all the way here at the end inside the building where it's warmer. So the water stops here when the valve is closed, and all of this is empty, so it doesn't really matter what the temperature is. If it's below freezing, if there's no water in the pipe, it can't freeze. It's important to note that when installing these, you need to pitch the faucet in a direction where when you shut the valve off, the water stops here and the rest of it drains out. This has what's called an anti-siphon or a vacuum break, where if there's a hose on there, when you shut the water, it'll allow air to come in to follow the water out through the hose so that the hose is empty as well. It's also important to prevent freezing to disconnect the hose when not in use during the winter time. So today I'm going to show you how to remove the old faucet which is leaking and reinstall this one. This one here, I'll show you the back. That little white ceramic piece on the inside is the valve that is controlled by the knob on this end. This faucet here has 1/2 inch pipe threads on the end of it, and the pipe in the building, as you see up in the corner there, is 1/2 inch copper. So in order to connect simply this faucet to 1/2 inch copper, I have a few common PEX fittings. One of the fittings here is a 1/2 inch female threaded by 1/2 inch shark bite PEX adapter, and the way this works is I'm going to put thread sealer tape on the threads, install this fitting, and then as you can see, I have a length of PEX tubing that slides inside this fitting, and you can see the teeth in there, and there's an O-ring that locks it in place and seals it. Then I also have an elbow, a 90-degree elbow, and another fitting. It's a push coupling. It's a shark bite push coupling that will allow me to slide onto the copper pipe in the building. And on this end here, I will put a piece of blue PEX pipe that I'm going to cut to length and use crimp rings to attach everything together so it's a watertight connection. So the next step is to turn off the water, and then we are going to go outside and open the valve to drain all of the water that's remaining in the pipe. The next step is I'm going to open the valve to let the water drain whatever is left in the pipe. Typically you would also remove the hose from the end of the hose bib, but for some reason this is stuck on there pretty good and we'll have to deal with that later. The next step is I'm going to remove the screws that are supposed to hold the faucet to the building, but for some reason this one was in bad shape. So I'm going to remove the screws and prepare the surface for the installation. The next step, I'm going to use my copper pipe tubing cutter to cut the pipe here right above the elbow. The way this tool works is this knob here moves the lower jaw, which has a cutting wheel, up and down to either increase or decrease pressure on the size on the pipe. As you spin it around the pipe, I'll show you how to operate here in just a second. As you can see, the cutter is beginning to score the copper pipe. I will add a little more pressure, make a turn, and as you turn, it cuts the pipe. It gets a little easier. I'll make another turn, add some more pressure, and continue the process until it cuts through the pipe. You don't have to crank it too much, because if you do, you will dent the pipe and then it'll be uneven. So you want it to keep it shaped, just a little bit of a turn, make a cut, a little bit of a turn, and repeat the process until you cut through the pipe. Now that the pipe is cut, the next step is to prepare the new faucet for the installation. I can see the hole in the side of the building should be big enough for my PEX fitting to fit on the back of that and slide through the hole. This is going to take a little bit of an angle to get it out, but not a big deal. Next, I'm going to attach this female 1/2 inch threaded by 1/2" PEX fitting to the back of the frost-free valve. First thing I need to do is apply some thread tape. This is Blue Monster. It's a good product. The way to properly apply Teflon tape is very simple. You hold whatever you're going to thread in your right hand, and you hold your tape in your left hand, and you start at the bottom, and you work your way up, and you turn this in the direction as if you're spinning on a nut. So I'm actually turning the pipe to the right, like righty-tighty, and the thread is being wrapped around, and I work my way to the end. It's really that simple. I get to the end, make sure it's in there nice and snug, make sure the end is clean, and that's it. Now I'm going to take this fitting, put it into the pipe, tighten it down with my wrenches, and then install it into the building. So what I need to do next is I'm gonna have to make this weather tight as I install the new valve. So the valve is going in. So I have this tapered wedge. It came off of the old faucet, and it's more of an angle. See how it's thick on the top and thin on the bottom? It's to pitch this faucet downward, so when you shut it off, the water drains out and no water sits in the pipe, because if it does, it has potential to freeze, but if it's not there, it can't freeze. This spacer that came with it, I don't particularly care for, so I'm going to use the old one that was on the building. And then what I'm going to do next is I have some silicone waterproof sealer here. I'm going to make a gasket around the back of the faucet, slide the faucet into the house, and then install some exterior screws to hold the faucet to the building. So I have exterior screws, a whole lot of schmutz. I put the caulk behind it, in between it, all around it, and I made sure it's good, tight, and sealed so no water or critters or ants or anything else could get in there. And you should be able to see that it is pitched downward. As you can see, the faucet is sufficiently pitched. However, the valve is significantly longer than the old one by about 5 inches, so I need to creatively plumb a solution to connect this to that. It's important when cutting the PEX tubing to make the cut square, not on an angle. This way when it sits inside the fitting, you have a nice clean fit. What I have is a PEX 90-degree elbow, a piece of PEX tubing, 1/2 inch, and a 1/2 inch crimp ring. And this is the tool that you use to pinch the ring. The way that this works is you install the crimp ring on the PEX tubing, and I'm sure there are other videos to show this. And then you insert your fitting all the way, having made sure you have a square, clean cut on your elbow, seated all the way up against the shoulder. And then you want to position this ring where it's right in the middle of the fitting. And you put your crimp pliers on the tab, on the crimp tab, and then you crimp. Get a good squeeze at the end, and that's what it should look like when it's closed. I preemptively made this elbow because it was easy to work with on the table. Next, what I'm going to do is install it into the shark bite fitting by pushing in. It's supposed to go in about 1/2 inch. Some people will mark with a Sharpie or put a dot on there or something, but I need to hold the valve while I push the fitting in, so I have to put the camera down. Okay, so as you can see, I had to get a little creative with the plumbing, but it works. The homeowner went and purchased the parts, and for the sake of convenience and simplicity, it may not be the prettiest thing, but it's not the ugliest thing. And next thing to do is to test for leaks. So what I have is, this is a push style connection. The PEX tubing will come all the way back to here and seat. So when you push your PEX tubing into your shark bite push connector, you want to make sure that it's fully seated. This is a crimp style PEX, and I make sure that all of the fittings are on there clean, square, and tight. And it's the same thing up here. I have crimp style connection into a push coupling. It's a shark bite coupling 1/2 inch from PEX to copper. Next thing to do is to turn on the water and check for leaks. And it's all dry. Thanks for watching, folks.